friends, and welcome to another episode of Soul Vibes. For those who are here for the first time, this is a monthly broadcast where we talk about all different things to do with soul. And this episode is, so it depends on who's attending and the energies that they bring. And so every time it is a little bit different, but it all has to do with how we live with the presence of the soul and all of the different issues and things that arise. But mainly it is also an experiential kind of time where we come into this safe space that we create together. And we mainly just want to feel that presence, that incredible magical presence of the soul. So my name is Alexis Sersha. And also for those that are new after the event, so I'm recording the episode and I will send everyone the email with the recording that you can then rewatch, or perhaps if you are in a different time zone and you can't watch now, you can watch this later. But welcome to you as well, whether you're present now live or whether you're present later. It matters not. We are in this now moment. And so let us all come into this wonderful sweetness of the now moment. And as it is the episode number 10, for those that are into numerology, 10 is an extra one. So 1 is the beginning. So 10 has got that 0 that gives it that extra oomph or a push for the new beginnings. And it's so appropriate because what I'm feeling today is all of those new beginnings. For the energies are so full on to do with solar flares, to do with the resonances that are lifting. And so there are so many things still coming up for people to face. For some people, they're facing enormous body issues. All of the things, perhaps things that have not wanted to release, that you haven't been able to integrate and release up to now. So these energies of now are full on bringing that to the surface, all of these things. And at the same time, being that we are multidimensional beings, we have the ability to also feel the incredible softness and fineness and refinement of these new energies that are coming up. And for some people, it is now that you're experiencing for the first time, perhaps, that incredible feeling of Christ's energy, that incredible feeling of this, well, we call it Christ consciousness or Christ energy, but that the incredible Christos within, that kingdom of God within, that presence of divinity. And for some, it is the first time that you're perhaps starting to feel that incredible presence of the soul, being as it is real feeling, real experience, not just something that is a theory, that is a wishful thinking. And once you start really feeling this incredible presence, as you know, there is no going back. It is mesmerizing. It is incredibly encompassing. It is incredibly contained in a way that, not in a way of expansion, but in a way that you become so self-dependent, so that you draw, or you allow the nourishment, the support, the inner self-love to come from this deep well of your own self. And this support that comes from this deep well of your own self is so pure, is so clear, is so all-encompassing, and is so all allowing and all accepting, that you become very, very choosy and very discerning as to all of what you then accept from the outside, from other people. And it kind of turns your world upside down, does it not? For what you valued perhaps even yesterday or a year ago or 10 years ago especially, becomes of very little value for the things of the world no longer they lose their grip, their power over you, and you then have a choice, you then have ability to choose and to decide for your own self, for you start making choices that come from the uniqueness of your own self. And you become more and more unique in how you perceive things, how you allow things, how you view things, and of course, what you value. And that is another point of separation with others, because on this journey, as we know, we have so many points of separation. But when you have this presence of soul, it always comes very wholesome. So you have a point of separation, which perhaps in the old days you could perhaps find traumatizing, but with the presence of the soul, that space that is created gets filled with this incredible well-being, with this incredible self-support, so that you can handle and you can deal with everything. And being that we're sort of looking at kind of feeling into the new beginnings of self, which is so handy for these times, because we're letting go even more of that old world is falling away, is passing away, and we're allowing this new self, new world to be birthed, to be born within us. And yet, as we know, this is not always easy. Is it not for we each one of us who feels to connect here, and I can feel that each one of us has had many lifetimes, so many lifetimes on this earth. And even in this lifetime, there have been, there's that feeling and experience of having lived so many lifetimes within this one life that you have had. And like we know, the experiences of the earth they have been incredibly traumatic. They have been incredibly, the experiences of where you needed to survive, where the rug keeps being pulled underneath you, and you fall, and you get broken, and you get wounded. And how does the soul presence deal with all of that? Because this is a part of, and the magic of this journey, is it not? This transformation of these parts that we thought that the world discards. Does it not? The world looks upon people who are broken, who are wounded. It looks upon those people and those parts of self as perhaps useless, as perhaps unneeded, as perhaps something to be ashamed of, to hide, especially in this world of social media where, one is supposed to just look through filters to look different than what you really look like. We can be made to feel ashamed of the scars that our body carries, of the marks of the age and the experiences that we've had. And so let's step into the soul's perspective of all of these things. And let's feel into these broken parts that we felt ashamed of, parts that we thought that they are something to discard, to quickly integrate and release and never look back upon. These parts, let them come to you, let them come into your awareness. And now start feeling something very, very different. Notice how these parts that have been broken and yet they've fallen, perhaps they were quiet for years and years, existing in the spheres of the shame and all such things. And now you notice how incredibly strong these parts are, how incredibly resilient these parts are, how much character these parts bring to yourself. So this is the perspective of the soul, with with how the soul self, you as a soul, look and feel look upon these parts and feel about these parts. It is these parts that know what it means to get up over and over again when you didn't think you could ever get up again. It is these parts that know what it is like to stand in courage where everything around you is burning. It is these parts that know what it means to trust again and again and again, despite how many times you have been betrayed, you have been let down, you have been pushed down perhaps by those that you trusted, by those that were supposed to love you, by those that told you sweet little lies that you believed. And yet all they were doing were pushing you down, were wounding you further. It is these parts that know what it is like to go deep into the darkness, to stay perhaps dormant like winter, to drop all of life, to drop all of its life and its beauty and its flowers and its leaves, so that only what remains is perhaps in empty branches in the dead of winter, when nothing moves, when everything is frozen. And yet they are just dormant, these parts. These parts know how to survive over and over again. And when the spring comes, the new beginning comes, these parts know how it is to move, to stretch like a little baby after its long sleep. They know how to move, how to grow, how to blossom into life again. Like nature, it knows how to spring back into the life after the frozen time, after the dead of the winter that carries the promise. It is these parts that are unbreakable. It is these parts of yourself that know what it is like to have this incredible resilience that nothing but nothing can break, can put down. It is these parts that know what it is like to walk in the light of your own conviction. For these parts know what it's like to be down. For these parts know what it's like to feel hopeless. For these parts know what it's like to feel ashamed. And yet, even after all of this, they know how to love. They know how to rise up in the light of a new day over and over and over. It is these parts that have this incredible courage that nothing and no one can push down anymore, for they have been to the depths of the deep darkness and everywhere in between, and yet still they're alive, they still rise. And can you now still call these parts wounded and broken? Or are these the parts that are incredibly strong? They carry your strength, they carry your courage, they carry your conviction. They carry your wholeness. They carry the hope of the new day. They carry the hope of the new growth. They know how to rise again and again and again, how to hope again, how to trust again, how to love again, despite of everything that they've experienced, despite of everything they've been through, regardless of how many times they've been let down, how many times they felt broken, how many times they felt hopeless, sorrowful, tearful, crying, alone, abandoned. And yet still they are alive, and yet still they are here, and yet still they feel whole, and yet still they feel and allow and accept the love, the respect, the honor from their soul. They feel the love, the acceptance, the honor from their own soul, from you. And this is the courage that you have gifted yourself with by having thousands and thousands and thousands of lives, experiences rather, on all different kinds. And now you too can honor, you too can accept these parts and the gifts that they bring. For all of these parts of yourself have incredible gifts, gifts with which you can endow yourself with through these times that can for to others seem so harsh, so hard, without hope of future. But not you, for you are a survivor. You survived anything and everything that one can imagine. You've survived thousands of lifetimes that were dark. You've survived incredible abuse. You've survived things that people can dream of, that monsters that live within other people. You've survived their treatment. You've even survived the monsters that live within you. So what can break you? Dear friend, I ask you, is there anything in the universe, on this earth, that can break you, that can push you down? No, for you now are this incredible being that has been through so much, and yet still you are here. Still you are open as never before. You open yourself to allowing, to surrendering to what is. Still there is this light, this sparkle within you, this sparkle that nothing and no one can break, can extinguish. Can you feel different? Can you feel this incredible, incredible power that lives within you? And how much how much freedom this gives you, for you now fear nothing. You are fearless completely and totally in the face of anything that the world, that the mass consciousness can throw at you. For you have lived through the worst there was, that can be imagined, and yet still you are here, absolutely pure, clear, whole. And this is the point of view that with which your soul is looking at you, dear human, is looking at all of the parts of yourself. And it enjoys, it revels, it celebrates the strength that you now have, for the fires that you have gone through and walked through and been burned by and survived and rebirthed yourself over and over again. What, dear friends, tell me, what is there out there on the inside or on the outside that can destroy you, that can push you down, that can keep you down? There absolutely is nothing. It is this incredible journey that you've gone through these lifetimes, over and over again, and in this lifetime. The experiences that you've had that have shaped you, that have allowed you to access and to feel this incredible resilience, grittiness that you now have. I want you to feel that now. Feel it, and feel it as you wake up every day. Remember this feeling, this incredible fearlessness, this incredible aliveness that you now have access to, this incredible wisdom that was born from tragedy, from traumas, from surviving what you thought is going to kill you. And yet still you are here. And yet still you rise. and yet still you have love, and yet still you have the purity through which you can now allow these most purest, these most high vibrational resonances that are now available on earth. Not only that are available, but they are flowing through you. And they are able to flow through you not because you have somehow managed to walk through life without scars, like what the mass consciousness would like to have you believe, that it's only if you look scarless, like a baby always, like you had no experiences. No, it is precisely because there is this journey written on every cell of your body, on your body, on your inside, on the outside. There are these voices of these journeys which are now allowing this space through which these fine, incredibly fine energies are flowing through. And you can feel now how within the consciousness of humanity, these diamonds that you are putting in there, this ability to be unscathed and yet carry the scars of your journey, but be unscathed in your ability to allow love to rise again, to hope again, to feel joy regardless of the experiences. You can see how these kind of diamonds are priceless within the consciousness of humanity. And these kind of diamonds are what is needed now for the humanity that is going through such difficult, challenging times, where they feel betrayed by their leaders, where they feel betrayed by organizations, by partners, by life, and hopeless. And yet not you, for you have given yourself those experiences and you have risen again. And so you can see how the perspective of those parts that perhaps you didn't want to look at, that perhaps you wanted to deal with in a very quick manner and hope that no one can see them or notice them, you can now wear them proudly. For now is the question, were they ever wounded at all? Were they ever broken, those parts? No. They are parts of a warrior. And it's a different kind of a warrior now that you know that is needed. It is not a warrior that battles, that battles in the old way, that battles against the darkness or what it perceives the darkness. No, it is a different kind of a warrior that is needed now, one that stands tall and whole and proud of the journeys that it's taken, proud of what is called the scar of its scars, proud of all of those things that it considered a failure. And I call it an it because it can be masculine or feminine. It is both. It is integrated. It is no longer divided, this inner warrior. And the outer warrior that you are, this peaceful warrior. And I invite each one of you to play with this now. What does it mean for you to be this warrior that has been and seen everything that has fallen down so many times, that have been crushed down so many times, and yet over and over again it stood up. And not only that it stood up, it wasn't broken. It stood up in its wholeness. It stood up with the wisdom of incredible basket of incredible wealth of experiences. of incredible wisdom, of this incredible experience of what it is like to trust when you don't trust, what it is like to love when you don't love, what it is like to burn and be born again, what it is like to transform the deepest fears into courage, what it is like to be open and vulnerable to love, to gentleness, to new life, to softness. For we don't traditionally assign those to the warrior, do we? For image of a warrior is very, very different in the old ways, is it not? How can a warrior of today be this gentle, vulnerable, soft, loving presence, and yet still have that wisdom and experience of all the battles that it had been through, of all the scars that it received and healed and lived through, of all the deaths that it experienced, and of all the rebirths when he came back again, of that desperation when it felt when the war was won, and then again and again that darkness arose from the light. For dear friends, is it not that what happened over and over again when you thought that you've won your battles? And yet the darkness just kept on coming back from the most unexpected spaces. There is this feeling of weariness in the old warrior, is it not? This feeling of hopeless, and yet now is the time to release that, to look at that, to release that, to bring it into the light and fill it with hope. Alexis fills them all with flowers. She plants flowers into that darkness, into that dark soil. And it is the best soil, is it not? So full of potential, so full of strength, so full of nutrients that have been through hell and back. And the incredible life that grows, the incredible flowers that grow out of that kind of soil have never been seen before. For we have never had the warriors like you are now, new type. And so I invite you, each one, to play with this, feel into it, allow this. Be proud, for you have done thousands of journeys, dear friends, thousands of experiences. Feel just how much you have experienced, how full your basket of gifts is, and how you have the ability now to open each one of those incredible boxes, each one containing that gift, a gift that you've put there with your resilience, with your grittiness, with your ability to keep going when there was no path. You created the path when there were none. And this ability now is invaluable. Just see how many of these kind of abilities, of these gifts that you can open now, and that are invaluable in these times of the new, when no paths are yet created, when no roads are yet created, and this new is being born in the ashes of the old, in the ashes of the old world breaking down, of the old ideas, of the old paradigms falling apart. And for people looking for the new solutions, for some, they've given up because they cannot see. But now is that time to create, to imagine, to hope anew, to show, to live what it is like to be new, to feel new, to have this trust like a newborn baby, this love like a newborn baby, this ability to live in the now moment, to ability to imagine it all like a newborn baby, and yet be one who has already lived all. For is it not this who you are? You are this being, incredible being that has been through so much. And now you ask yourself again to be born anew, to be new, to be trusting, to be vulnerable, to be loving, to be gentle, to be expectant, playful, to feel your body rejuvenated, your cells rejuvenated, filled, aware of this divinity, of this soul presence within each cell of your body. And this incredible vibrancy and aliveness that you can now feel. And so you are both at the same time. Do not be quick to try and discard the old in that sense. To not harvest the wisdom and utilize this wisdom. Remember each day to go to your basket of gifts and perhaps unwrap new box that you find there and see what is there. The ability that was born, that is born out of your experience, and how you can utilize it now in a new way. For difference, it is not like what you knew of before is no longer going to be there here. It is just that all of those things that you were, that you thought you knew, get reborn, and you create a new relationship with those things, and you express those things in a new way, in a completely new way that will surprise you. But those surprises and that new relationship and all of those new ways of being can only come when you are vulnerable, when you are open and expanded and trusting and loving. And these are those kind of sacred oils that massage and oil, so to speak, these new things into being and allow them to come through you into the reality, into your world, into your day, into your existence. Feel how you can feel that wonderful, warm, fresh radiance that radiates from the center of your body. And feel how that radiance can flow unobstructed when you are feeling that trust, when you are feeling that openness, when you are feeling that tenderness, that love, that joy, humor, playfulness. And you can feel the opening of your body, of each cell, this awareness of this incredible presence of your soul, of your divinity, of each cell. And you can do this despite of your what you called wounds and brokenness, but precisely because of them. For it is they that enable you the courage and this trust and this ability to be this open, to be this gentle, to be this flowing in the world of today as it is, despite of all of your experiences, not, but because of them. And so these are some of the ways in which your own soul self looks at the parts of you. It is a very, very different perspective than how the world looks at the scars, how the world deems certain experiences, how the world judges. For the world judges people based on how they're supposed to look, like as if they've just been born, in a sense, like they have no scars, like they have, like their face is not showing their experiences. And yet we're turning this around on its head, upside down. We are proud of all that we've experienced, the hardships, the loneliness. Each one person on this journey has had to contend with, come to terms with the loneliness. That has been such a companion, has it not? A familiar companion on this journey. For each one, for you to be able to be where you are, you had to feel separated almost in your cocoon, in order to be able to transform, in order to have that space from which to see the new perspectives, from which to clear and heal and allow the changes of perspectives to happen. For if you did not have that separation, of course, you know that you wouldn't be able to do that transformation. You would be just the same as people that are still caught within the mass consciousness. But being in this cocoon has created certain issues, has it not? One of them is that feeling of aloneness, of loneliness. And for many of you now, you revel, you enjoy this alone time because you've come to see and respect what it gives you, the gifts that it brings you. And yet it can still have left, it would still have left those traumatic experiences, especially perhaps on your younger child, teenager, or on your young adult times, when you felt different, when you felt alone and separated. And yet you can see the incredible wisdom also of these parts in the space that they gift you with. And the ability to be so self-reliant, which you've had to become, because when you felt so alone, again, you had to keep rising and rising and rising to that challenge of feeling okay, of keep going on with your life, with things that had to be done, despite of how you felt. And so now again, we allow this feeling, and we allow the gift that it brings. We unwrap it, we take out the gift of loneliness, the package, the box, and we open it up and see the value, the wisdom, the gold, the diamond that it is gifting you with. For different, in this new era, in this new way of being, the multidimensional being, of being a soul-filled being, each and every feeling, sensation, sense, thought has its own reality, has its own beingness, and you become aware of each feeling and the importance that it has, and the life that it has, and the effect that it has in the story of you, the many stories that you are, not only in this lifetime, but in many others. And for many of you, perhaps you are exploring this in your dreams, that for many of you are very vivid, and you are realizing that perhaps you don't remember the people and the landscape of those dreams, but you remember the feeling of those dreams. And you realize how none of these are lost to soul. None of these are lost to of their existence and of their reality. And so you're becoming much more aware of the importance of being able to how important it is to be able to allow, to honor, to accept, to also transform all of these feelings, so that they can too be open, and so that they too can grow and develop and flow and not be stuck. And you are realizing the importance of your own being as a human facet of your own soul, the part that is experiencing things on behalf. We can say that perhaps it's an analogy to say that the soul dreams, you as a soul dreams, and you as a human being experiences those dreams for real. You experience them physically. And you're starting to really feel the reality of how important that is, but also the reality of all of you, how important everything of you is. Because in the past, like, there was this feeling that, some thoughts don't matter, some feelings don't matter, some I want to escape from, some I want to hide, some I want to stuff down, never feel or see again, because we didn't realize, or we didn't have this experience of how each one of those has a life of its own, how each one of those exists in a certain reality. And now when we are becoming more and more multidimensional, not that we weren't before, we're just rather becoming aware of the multidimensional nature of who we are. This responsibility for our own thoughts and feelings is actually quite huge, in a sense that we are responsible for what we feel, what we think, what we create, what we imagine, what we bring forth into life. So it's and we're becoming also very aware of all of these abilities that we have when we feel these things. So we're entering quite a new space in a new era, and we're becoming much more aware of how important it is, as I said, to be able to transform them, to be able to be okay with all parts of yourself, because they don't all go into non-existence or into neutral until actually we deal with them. And this is now so important also because the reality of a creator is that things manifest so quickly now, and it is so important to be present with yourself. And so people that are still not allowing parts of themselves, or honoring parts of themselves, or changing perspectives as to how they perceive those parts of themselves, have still issues of being present in the now moment. And it is only in the now moment where you are that magician, where you are that master that is playing with all of these kind of realities, including playing and being aware of your soul. And so we're becoming so fine-tuned with finesse, with and we're being asked to be like that, because we're creating in moment by moment, and what you're experiencing is moment by moment. So if you're still having trouble with being present in your moment because there are parts there that you don't like about yourself, maybe there are parts within your life that you don't approve of, or you don't like, or you look down upon, and yet all of those are your creation. You know, all of those need to be accepted, need to be flown, you need to be okay with it all, because these energies, these fine energies that are now here, very quickly can turn into some kind of diseasement of the body, or this dysfunction or maladjustment. And a lot of people are experiencing just that. And it all has to do with all of that unacceptance. And so difference, invite this presence of your soul and take on its point of view, because you will see, if you haven't already, that however that as a human self you had a certain view of things, that when you allow that presence just to enter you, not to enter, the words are not adequate to explain this, but to be part of you, so you become aware of that presence and you become aware of that radiance, everything takes on a very, very different perspective. And so, for example, let's say if you don't like a certain person or whatever, they've been triggering you, with that presence you can actually really feel and see and perceive the divinity in that person, and that perception completely changes in how you feel and interact, how you feel with regards to that person, how you interact with that person, and how you relate to that person. And that then straight away, especially if this person you can't walk away from, perhaps they are at your job, perhaps they're your neighbor, perhaps, you know, they are your partner, your child, or whatever, but you can transform that. And in that, all of a sudden then it helps you to be able to be present in your now moment much more. There is always, you know, every day it feels like, oh wow, I'm present in my now moment more and more. And I wasn't as present as yet, you know, yesterday I wasn't as present, but these are all just perceptions, because we're becoming much more aware of who we are, of more of ourselves, we're becoming aware of more of our abilities, we're becoming aware of, we are accessing more of what we can do. So we're very, very different than a normal person who is still disconnected. And and that all of that does require a much more awareness and much more responsibility, again, in a new way, as to what we identify with, how we look at each part of ourselves, how we look at reality. And so that reality becomes so flowing, reality becomes so filled with gorgeousness, and even, you know, the suffering and the pain that other people can perceive does not even touch us, because we've transformed it in our own space. And that is not from being selfish, but it's just that we can't anymore even perceive, the state of suffering or the state of pain or the state of, I don't know, the state of being hurt or the state of someone being able to put us down. All of these kind of things are not anymore possible because our sovereign space of self has increased, or rather the perception of that sovereign space has increased so much. And yet that sovereign space requires a king and a queen, an alpha and omega, and everything in between. That is you. You are the decider. You are the chooser. You are the creator. You are the transformer. You are the king and the queen in your own sovereign space. And we talk about this a lot, and we have for years. And yet you can feel it now. For some, you're experiencing this for the first time ever. And you have perhaps experienced very defined feelings of what it is like to take authority back, or perhaps for the first time. Because these experiences can happen gradually. Like, for example, perhaps you have a person in your life, or perhaps this relates to your government, to your institutions, to other people, to belief systems, to biological issues, to the nature of what you thought your body was and is. So, but you get these defined and definite experiences when you can realize that you are now the authority with regards to whomever, whether it is that another person, you're in authority. Whether it is to your monetary issues, you are the authority. You get that experience where that you for sure realize that you are the creator, you are the chooser, you are the decider. In regards to a person, in regards to authority figures, in regards to government systems, in regards to banking systems, in regards to biological things, in regards to the old ways of looking at the body, in regards to looking to your wounds, to your broken parts, to your broken heart. You are starting to experience what it feels like for you to be in authority in regards to those things, rather than them ruling you, or rather than you not having, or rather than you feeling powerless in relationship with them. So, but when you are in this level of your self with self, you are no longer operating from the points of view of the small human, from the points of view of the mind. And so your perspective of all of these things is filled with compassion, is filled with acceptance, is filled with the points of view of yourself, of your divinity, of your soul. So the solutions that happen in regards to any of these are also quite different than what you imagined when you were operating from the mind. And very often also, it doesn't even need for you to do anything differently, because you realize that you just didn't see the whole picture. And all of a sudden, what you thought was an issue, you realize that actually it is a gift. And so because we have had so many lifetimes, and these are now in a now moment, we need this ability to see the wisdom of each experiences that we have had in all these different experiences that we've had. We now can keep opening those boxes with gifts that each and those experiences have brought to us. And this is to let go of these last vestiges of feeling oneself victimized or a victim of anything. For remember, the soul's perspective is always of a point of wholeness, is always from this point of being timeless, of this point of being whole. It means nothing to it, actually, even a word whole, because it never was not whole. You know, even when I say timeless, it doesn't actually mean anything to the soul, but it now knows what that means because it has learned through its human parts that have felt time filled, you know, that have felt limited. It kind of knows these, it has these experiences, and yet it itself is timeless. It itself is spaceless. It always was, and it always is. It is that Alpha and Omega. It is everything. And so it perceives things in a very, very different way. And so its gift to you is these changes of perspectives. And we haven't even started on to actually even taste just how different the perspectives can be. Because whenever we feel this love and acceptance and vulnerability and this joy of living and this incredible beauty of your own parts of yourself being in this oneness, or interacting in this incredible love and rejoicing and humor and fun and joy, it keeps developing, it keeps growing, it keeps exploring. You know, it's kind of like a relationship with anything or anyone, that you start somewhere, and yet that relationship keeps developing into something that we now are just starting, but we don't know what it's going to be like in 5 years, in 10 years time, you know. So is this continuous sense of discovery that is just so exciting and so beautiful at the same time. So now I'm going to have a bit of a drink and a bit of a breather. Lots of words and lots of experiences. I feel that we've gone quite deep today, and it really, we needed to go there, because, dear friends, these times are incredible, but for some, they're very challenging also, you know, because of it, very much those things of still having those grains of sand. It's kind of like when you know, for those people who know how to ski, if you have those bits and pieces stuck on your ski, they're not smooth. And so when you go down the slope, you can have that drag, you know, like, and that's why people put all of those, in the old days, we would put candle wax on sledges and skis. For those that are from hotter places, perhaps you don't know that, maybe you can relate in some other way, but you know, there can be those harsh parts that don't smoothly go down the ski, down the snow. So we used to put like candle wax, and now you can buy all sorts of different things that you can, you know, put on the skis underneath so that they actually go very smoothly. And that's kind of an analogy of this. So if you still have those grains of sand, or perhaps for some there are even rocks or bigger things that are kind of, grating your smooth dance with all of these energies. We've experienced this journey today that you can do at any time, in your own way and in your own version, and transform and look differently at those parts that you thought were broken, that you thought were wounded, but they actually are diamonds. They actually are these pieces of gold. They actually are parts with incredible wisdom and strength that are actually were made with their wisdom of what they've grown, what they've brought through their experiences is what is needed for today. Their wisdom, their gold, those diamonds, those gifts that you can open now freely at your leisure. And with courage, because sometimes we just don't, it can be also quite difficult to challenge, rather, to accept these enormous gifts that we have, because we have been so used to look at ourselves as small, as limited, as within time. So now is that time to really open up and allow the gifts, and just allow yourself to be loved in this incredible way by the part of you that you can call divinity, that you can call your soul, that you can call whatever you want to. It matters not. The names matter not. It is that feeling, and just give yourself to it without abandon. Give yourself to it. Learn to really be okay to be loved in a way that you have never loved yourself before. And with this, I leave you with this, dear friends. Until next time, namaste.